asking the questions mainstream journalists will never ask. This is your Richie Allen Show on richieallen.co.uk, Fab Radio 2 in Manchester, and triggerwarning.tv.
Thanks for listening to me when you could be watching the football. Football fever hasn't quite gripped Manchester anyway. I think I've seen about 3 cars today with the flags on the windscreens or on the windows, the side windows, the driver's side windows, which is a nice thing. Although recently and in recent years, it has been discouraged amid claims it's not politically correct and it might be offensive if you run the St. George's Cross flag out your window or out the back of your car when England are playing. What poppycock! If you want to fly your flag, you go and fly your flag. To hell with this offensive nonsense. Taxi firms around the country, not all of them, have been recommended not to use the little flags that go on your side windows, lest they possibly offend passengers. I wish those taxi drivers would collectively tell their bosses to fuck off. Anyway, that really gets on my moobs. My big moobs. Were you drinking, Richie? Were you before you came on? No, sadly no. Never on the job, never on the job. Right, I'm going to kick off with 2 bits of what we call in the trade right of reply. Now, we have a forum on richieallen.co.uk, thanks to Hayden Hewitt. Good call by Hayden Hewitt, by the way. I didn't have much time for forums, not because I don't think people should be typing away, but I didn't want to be reading all the posts to add to the 1,500 other jobs that I have. But anyway, I do read some of the posts and I find them very interesting. And in fact, I've picked up a couple of good nuggets of information from the forum, richieallen.co.uk/forums. So SJP01 is a poster on the forum. And just a bit of right reply, I talked about going to the Billy Joel concert and I was scathing in my criticism of the security arrangements and the arrangements in general. Bit of right of reply coming up. SJP01 sent a message to the forum today. I, like Richie, attended the Billy Joel concert at Man United Stadium, Old Trafford. I, like Richie, thought it was a marvellous show. It was. Probably the best gig I have ever been to. I, on the other hand, found the security staff to be most pleasant and felt reassured that it was well policed. As for the fights that took place, that may have had more to do with the alcohol that was on sale inside the stadium. I had my say yesterday, so I won't follow up on that. That's right of reply there to SJP, who didn't have any issues with security at the show on Saturday night. Good stuff, mate. Thank you. And my friend Peter Kalchev, libertarian living in Australia, smart guy, sends me some very interesting stuff, very open-minded. And Peter has been listening to me, not recently, but in the recent past, talking about Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. And I've been not so convinced about WikiLeaks' authenticity over the years. So Peter sent me this today, bit of right of reply, eh? Getting all politically correct in our own way. But Peter sent this, it is interesting. He said, Richie, I recall you saying in the past that you were somewhat wary of Julian Assange and WikiLeaks because they never broke a story that wasn't already out there, or words to that effect. I don't disagree with that, Richie, but I think you're missing the point. I heard Assange once say in an interview that in a world of endless fake news, WikiLeaks had never released a news item that was later disproven. Evidently, to ensure the integrity in the news releases they make, they check and recheck the veracity of all the information they get, and naturally that precludes the likelihood that they'll be first with the breaking news, as this vetting process may take weeks or months. More importantly, whilst the shows and websites like yours, Kevin Barrett's and Paul Craig Roberts, to name a few, have an international audience and an impressive listener base, especially in light of their limited chief cook and bottle washer resources, WikiLeaks, on the other hand, has, and Peter continues, rock star recognition throughout the world and a reader base that is dozens of orders of magnitude greater. Therefore, Richie, when WikiLeaks speaks, public opinion worldwide shifts en masse, and that's why Assange is being hunted down with the intention of extradition to the US and potential lifetime imprisonment. That's why, in my opinion, Assange and WikiLeaks are so important and must be protected. It's not so important that they be doing the actual investigative journalism themselves. They are important because they provide the platform that is trusted and reaches out to a critical mass of people. They almost single-handedly have the power, or so the elite fear, to bring down the criminal cabal that runs the world. Thank you, Peter Kalchev, for that bit of right of reply that riposte to my contention that WikiLeaks is much ado about nothing. Thank you, Peter. Right, moving on. Spoke about this yesterday. Huge story, very important. The UK Prime Minister Theresa May said today the tax rises will indeed be needed to pay for the boost in NHS funding, which she announced over the weekend. May conceded that the public would pay more, but promised that this would be done in a fair and balanced way. When she said that, her nose poked the eye out of the person sitting directly opposite her in the front row. If you ever watch Bullseye, nose just absolutely destroyed the eyeball of the woman in the front row. Fair and balanced way. Sure it will, Theresa. The government also said that economic growth and a Brexit dividend will help cover the costs of the increased spending, which will see NHS England's budget increase by £20 billion. £20 billion by 2023. Remember we spoke about this yesterday on Sunday View. Here is the Prime Minister, Theresa May, very short and very, well, I won't say sweet.
Some of the extra funding I'm promising today will come from using the money we will no longer spend on our annual membership subscription to the European Union after we have left. But the commitment I'm making goes beyond that Brexit dividend, because the scale of our ambition for our NHS is greater still. So across the nation, taxpayers will have to contribute a bit more in a fair and balanced way to support the NHS we all use.
Fair and balanced, yeah. Of course it'll be fair and balanced. Now, you know I love Beth Rigby. Beth is very good. By the way, Theresa May later on today said the NHS should remain in public ownership forever. Another massive lie. Now, Sky correspondent Beth Rigby, like her a lot, very good reporter. She's been following the ins and outs of this. And yet again today, Beth Rigby has claimed, like she did yesterday, that the Prime Minister, none other, Theresa May, is telling porcupines.
Brexit might pay for it at some point in the future, but certainly in this particular spending settlement that the Prime Minister's announced today, it won't be a Brexit dividend that pays for it, not least because any Brexit dividends already earmarked for other things up until 2023, 2024. At the very earliest, things like paying the divorce bill from the EU, for example. So what she actually admitted today was that taxpayers would have to pay a little bit more to fund this big increase in NHS spending. But she also admitted that she hadn't yet done the sums, that she'd made the spending commitment, but she hadn't costed it. And that was going to be left to Philip Hammond, who's got his work cut out over the summer to work out how to pay for it. And he'll announce the details of that in the budget in the autumn. Quite unusual for the Conservatives not to cost spending commitments. That was something that George Osborne, you remember him, the former Chancellor, used to make a great deal over.
Yeah, she's got lies, more lies than damned lies. Theresa May is going to leave it up to Philip Hammond to sort out the finances. Philip Hammond only learned how to put his underpants on yesterday. Yellow at the front and brown at the back. So I'm not holding out any hope that Philip Hammond is going to be able to do the sums. So what does the Labour Party say about all of this? Here's their shadow health secretary, a man called Jonathan Ashworth.
Our plans were fully costed. We don't actually know what the government's plans are. The Brexit dividend has unravelled. It's a Brexit deceit. We think what's going to happen is that borrowing is going to go up under a Tory government and tax is going to go up under a Tory government. And Tory MPs cannot expect us to wait till a budget in November to spell out what tax increases are coming.
Jonathan Ashworth. Well, Labour just wants to borrow billions from the Central Bank of England. And then that's if they got in. And then when they get out again in 7, 8, 9, 10 years, well, the austerity will be so bad you'll just kill yourself. That's the way it is. Now, the effing, bastarding, blinking, mother effing House of Lords. The House of Lords, these are the farting, belching wasters that get £300 a day to sit in the upper chamber and fart and belch and scream and shout and subvert democracy. They're not elected, these people. Well, today, the Lords defeated the government's Brexit bill yet again, and MPs will have to vote again on how much of a say Parliament should have on Brexit. There was another defeat for the government by the unelected House of Lords. Peers, they're called peers, you see, peerages, decided that members of Parliament should have to approve whatever the government decided to do next if there was no final agreement with the European Union. 354 votes to 235. The issue will be sent back to the House of Commons for a debate this coming Wednesday. Don't you just love democracy? 16 minutes past the hour. This is your Richie Allen Show for Monday, 18th of June 2018. Harry Kane has put England into the lead against Tunisia, the mighty Tunisia. Most people's favourites for the World Cup. Not Harry Kane with an early goal. England lead 1-0. I'm going to do that for the rest of the World Cup, just to wind up those non-football aficionados. Serious story covered this today on richieallen.co.uk. Cashless society. Unbelievable figures came out today from UK Finance, which is a banking trade body. 3.4 million people in this country hardly used cash at all in 2017. Imagine it. Hardly used cash at all. Debit card payments have now overtaken cash. That for the first time. That was in the year 2017. 13.2 billion debit card payments made in 2017, which was a huge rise on the previous year. In fact, it was a 14% rise on the previous year. The cashless society is here. It's unfolding in front of your eyes. And people are using this contactless thing all the time. You know, you go into a shop and you get a few things and they offer you the machine. You just tap the card against it. There's a beep and you get a receipt, or you don't and you walk away. Now, the frequency of contactless payments doubled in 1 year from 2.8 billion to 5.6 billion in 2017. 2.8 billion 2016, 5.6 billion last year. And you probably would have guessed this without me telling you, but the majority of those aged between 25 and 34 never use cash at all and are less or least likely to have any cash on them at any time. Speaking to Sky News about this today was Mervyn Kohler. Mervyn is from Age UK, which is a charity which advocates for the rights of senior citizens. This is Mervyn Kohler.
Cash as a whole is getting more and more difficult to lay your hands on as bank branches close. And of course, some of the ATMs actually charge a fee per transaction. So the contactless technology is probably going to be a boon to quite a lot of older people. It means that you probably don't need to fiddle around looking for your spectacles to be able to enter your PIN. You won't even have to remember to memorize your PIN. But for all the older population that actually really adopt contactless cards, I think there are a large number living on pretty poor incomes who would be absolutely petrified with spending being able to happen around them without a proper record.
Yeah, he was on the right track to begin with, wasn't he? Because he basically laid out the benefits, which is how these things are sold. He said that those with mobility issues, you know, who might find it difficult, people with arthritis maybe, you know, arthritic hands, my hands are arthritic, I'm 43, but I do have arthritis in my hands and in one of my knees. Sometimes my hand seize up, not often. So yeah, it's handier for senior citizens. Whip the card out, touch it to the device and move on. But then he correctly said that it'll worry old people who'll fear that they aren't in control as much as they are with cash when they know. See, senior people are very good at doing mental arithmetic, which the younger generations are not so good at because they don't have to, because their smartphone has a calculator on it. Honest to God, I read this. There's a huge problem with pre-teens and early teens doing basic arithmetic in their heads. You know, adding up 46 and 52 or 75 and 48 or whatever. They can't do it instantly. We can do it instantly. And senior folks are brilliant at doing it. They can't do it. So of course, and of course it's not going to benefit poor people. When cash is gone, I've said this today, and the only option is electronic payment, you will have the facility, you will have the possibility then for what we call economic censorship of people. Dissidents, for example. People who work hard to expose the system. Very easy to switch them off, you know. Just press a button, bang, they're gone. Can't travel, can't get on a train to go to a protest. Can't do anything. Can't pay for food, bang, you're gone. And I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that when cash disappears, so will opposition to this totalitarian system. It will disappear as well, inevitably. That's my opinion. Article today on richieallen.co.uk. 21 and a half minutes past the hour. Going to take a very quick break is what I'm going to do. When we come back, going to talk briefly about political correctness. There's a couple of stories in the papers today. The PC Twitter police went mad today for no good reason about a couple of things. We'll talk about that in a second. Before that, though, we'll take a break. Keep the tweets coming in. It is at Richie Allen Show on Twitter. It's Monday's Richie Allen Show.
Introducing the H2O app, a powerful water structuring application that programs vibrational energies into water through the use of different sound frequencies. Once programmed, the use of water for drinking, cooking, bathing. Give it to your friends and colleagues or spread it around the garden. The list goes on. It's not just water that the app can be used for either. It's great for programming crystals too. The H2O app is free to download and is available on both Android and Apple platforms. For further information, go to h2oapp.online.
Have you lost access to important data from a computer hard drive, mobile phone, or other storage device? Maybe you have a broken hard drive containing years of information, or a smartphone that no longer works from which you'd like the pictures, movies, and chats recovered. If you would like to recover data from any type of digital device, including desktop and laptop computers, external hard drives, cameras, smartphones, NAS, and RAID servers, then contact Data Clinic today at dataclinic.co.uk now.
There's a place high in the mountains of Spain, a sanctuary where souls gather from all around the globe to learn about themselves and experience powerful changes in the way we see our world. They become awakened to their gifts and their power to heal others. Become part of this ever-growing worldwide family of unique, pure energy healing practitioners. Discover how amazing you truly are. Go to www.markbayerski.com. It could just change your life forever. Forever.
Richie Allen.
Welcome back to the Richie Allen Show. Lots to talk about, so I'm going to move on very swiftly. Political correctness, the pillar of cultural Marxism, one of the pillars of cultural Marxism. Wrote about this today on richieallen.co.uk. Check it out. There's been some very funny examples in the last few weeks. Shakespeare's Globe in London, which has a summer programme of plays by Shakespeare and other playwrights. They have a deaf girl acting as Celia. It is. I had to think about that there for a minute. Yes, it is Celia from As You Like It. This is not in any way to put down or to insult or to in any way diminish people with disabilities, deaf people. But there's a deaf girl signing as Celia. Did the great bard write the character as deaf? I don't remember that. studied English at 3rd level. So why do it then? Why ask a deaf lady, however talented she might be as an actress, I'm sure she's brilliant, but why ask her to do it? Just to give a deaf actress a gig? Bit madness that, isn't it really? Just my opinion. I wouldn't like to go and see As You Like It with a deaf girl signing the lines, the dialogue, the words of Celia. Madness. Then we had the lifeboat lads last week, didn't we? 2 experienced Whitby lifeboat volunteers, very good at their jobs apparently, saving lives on the sea. They were sacked and they lost an appeal later on because one of them gave another one a mug which featured a crewman's head superimposed onto a photo of a nude woman. So he gave his colleague a mug with a crewman's head superimposed on a graphic photo of a nude woman. Apparently this was a Secret Santa present. The boss found out and fired them. It resulted in 3 of their colleagues resigning in support of them, meaning that for a time Whitby was 5 men down. 5 men down. Made the point today, don't go swimming there for a while, or don't go canoeing or boating there for a while, because you might be screwed if the weather changes or anything happens, you know. But as you're sinking to your watery grave, well, you might take comfort in the fact that those sexist bastards will never work again. That is just insane, that. It's insane. And there's a story today about the World Cup. I knew I'd work a story about the World Cup into the programme. You might have seen this today. Sainsbury's has been accused of sexism over its World Cup clothes range for kids, which features just one item for girls. So on its website, a mother discovered 21 tops for boys, including t-shirts and polo shirts, but just one option for girls, a t-shirt with the word love in sequins, in which the O is represented by a football. This was discovered by a parent called Sarah Paul Freeman, and she lost her shit and wrote on Twitter, "The difference between Sainsbury's girls' World Cup clothes versus boys is shocking. Young girls enjoy football too." Sainsbury's nipped it in the bud very quickly and said, well, actually the range is unisex. They said, our World Cup clothing range is available to all children. We've corrected the error on our website. There shouldn't have been the little drop-down boxes with boys and girls because it's unisex. Sainsbury's hasn't labelled clothes as boys or girls for years, but it didn't matter. The Twitter storm took place. Massive offence because the PC police said Sainsbury's was stereotyping girls. The Sky News was on the case of this today with a debate on the Kay Burley Show, who initially heard from Naomi First. Naomi First is a journalist and she's not particularly impressed. Naomi's not particularly impressed by those who look for sexism everywhere.
A spokesperson from Sainsbury's has already said that they don't separate the labelling into boys and girls, and actually I think on the website it's just a kids range, and it comes down to a filter over boys or girls clothes. So I think it really is pretty much a storm in a teacup. It seems to me like very much looking for a problem, and it's one of those situations where if you're determined to search for sexism everywhere, you will eventually think that you found it. And I think that's really what's happening here. This isn't a case of Sainsbury's being sexist. It's just simply a case of how clothes are labelled on a website, and in any case it won't, a girl or a boy could buy those clothes. It won't make a difference. And in any case, I think even if it turned out Sainsbury's was selling more clothes, football clothes for boys than for girls, again, it wouldn't be a case of sexism. It would just be a case of a business decision about demand and what sells. And perhaps if it turned out that more boys or more parents are buying football clothes for boys, then it would make much more sense for Sainsbury's to sell more of that. But it doesn't even seem to be that that's the case anyway.
Well said, Naomi. Level-headed, common sense. Naomi First there. But Sam Smethers is the chief executive of the Fawcett Society, which campaigns for women's rights. And Sam Smethers doesn't agree Here's Sam Smithers.
Well, it's good that they've come out and said that, but that isn't what the website was saying, which is why we commented in the way that we did. I think if you're searching and you put a key in saying for girls and then all you get is one item of clothing to choose from, that shows that they are marketing to girls and boys differently. And I think what we're trying to argue is that we need to open up choices for our children, not close them down. And far from this being a rare occurrence, actually you've only got to walk into any toy shop or any clothing store in the high street today and you will see aisles labelled as for boys and for girls. You'll see a sea of pink in a toy shop and you'll see a sea of blue items in a toy shop for boys. So what we've really got to do is to stop retailers doing that and say, actually, let's open up choice. Let's not narrow things down. Stop labelling our children. Let them just be children and be free to choose what they want to choose.
What a load of bollocks. Maybe take some of your own advice, you daft mayor. We have to stop shops, stop retailers dividing their toys in the aisles along male-female lines. Who the hell are these tyrants? You know, you must do as we say. Madness, this. Anyway, left back in by Kay Burley, the host, Naomi First eviscerates her argument. This is good stuff by journalist Naomi First.
Equally, you could walk into any sports shop in the country and see aisles full of football clothes for girls and aisles full of football clothes for boys. So I don't think I don't think it's true at all that there isn't, there aren't choices for girls and that there aren't plenty of sports and football opportunities for young girls. In fact, I would say that the overwhelming marketing message that we receive is that girls can do anything. There's plenty of sports programs that are specifically aimed at girls. Women's football is getting far more coverage than it used to. The numbers of girls playing football, I think earlier this year there were figures of nearly 2 million girls and women in this country are playing football every month, and that's a rising figure. So I think the idea that something like a clothing selection at Sainsbury's is holding girls back or sending out a message or if it is sending a message, it's a message that girls really don't care about because it's not holding them back. And girls that want to play football are playing football. Girls that want to be football fans are being football fans. And this is just... It's really taking things out of perspective and as I said, it's looking for a problem where there isn't one.
And that's the key, you see, problems where there isn't one. These charities, these gender equality charities, there's no funding, there's no jobs unless you find sexism everywhere. And I'm not saying there isn't sexism, by the way. I know there is. I've encountered it. I saw it in radio when I was starting out in radio. I know sexism exists. Don't throw anything at me. But this sort of nonsense, well, it does nobody any good. And it certainly doesn't do the cause of those people who are genuinely experiencing sexism as a barrier to advancement with this sort of crap. Leave children alone, said Sam Smithers. Yeah, leave them alone. Let them do what they want to do is the thing you need to do. Hey, this one won't go away. I'm going to finish with this one for the moment. I've lots to do, but I want to get my guest Shane Gibbs on and give him plenty of time. I'm going to finish with this one for the moment. You may have seen this last week that Netflix has introduced new anti-harassment training in the wake of the hashtag #MeToo movement, right? And they've come up with a series of new rules for the set. So when television shows are in development, when they are being recorded, there are new rules, reportedly, including no looking at anyone for longer than 5 seconds, no lingering hugs, no flirting, and absolutely no asking for a colleague's phone number. Now, an on-set runner working on the next series of Black Mirror, thank God there's another series of Black Mirror, an on-set runner told the Sun newspaper that everybody was spoken to about Me Too, hashtag Me Too, and we were given these rules. Ortiz Anastasia Churkina has been having a little bit of fun with this most ridiculous of stories.
Netflix have reportedly introduced a policy advising their employees not to stare at each other for longer than 5 seconds. This has neither been confirmed nor denied by the company, but the general idea is allegedly inspired by the Me Too movement to avoid sexual harassment in the workplace. According to Netflix employees quoted by the press, this 5-second staring ban is part of a package of no lingering hugs, no asking for phone numbers, and no flirting.
We're proud of the anti-harassment training we offer to our productions. We want every Netflix production to be a safe and respectful working environment.
What do you think about when you think about the 5-second rule?
I have no idea what the 5-second rule is.
Well, if you were to take a guess, what do you think it would be about?
I can eat something after I fall, after I drop it on the floor, but only before it lays there for 5 seconds.
We have the 3-second rule in Norway, so we have to.
What?
You have to have 3 seconds between your car and the next car.
In time?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, we're talking today to people about Netflix. You know Netflix?
Yes.
Okay. So they have reportedly introduced this new policy where they're asking people who work with them to not stare at each other for longer than 5 seconds to avoid sexual harassment.
Really?
Ridiculous. Can't be dealing with it. Nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah, nonsense, said that woman. It is nonsense. Don't stare at a colleague for any longer than 5 seconds. No lingering hugs, no flirting, no asking for a colleague's phone number. The world is mad.